Hello everyone, I am the Generation Y conservative. So this week is an interesting week because we have Earth Day going on this week. And it's been going on since the 70s, and we've been touting recycling and climate change and all these other different things. We keep on going from global cooling to global warming to global cooling to global warming to we can't prove either one of those things. We're just going to call it climate change now, and any little shift either direction or no shift at all proves that global warming exists. So no matter what you say or do in opposition as a dissenter, you're wrong. And science will prove it either way, because any shift or non-shift is obviously evidence to that, because that makes any sense at all. So I heard an interesting thing this week in regards to how Earth Day started, and it seems to emanate back to a book called The Population Bomb. The population bomb centered around the fact that the population of the world was growing so much that it was going to cause this huge, massive, devastating effect to nature, and that it compared humans literally to cancer, as a cancer on the earth, and how it was destroying the environment. This guy started to advocate for things like limiting how many births a family can have, limiting it to 2 children per family. He also wanted to put sterilants into the water system so that it would limit the population growth, and that the government could fluctuate that based on the population of any given area. He also advocated for science determining the sex of a baby so that a more male-dominant society would reduce the population size, whereas a female population would actually start to encourage population growth. So overall, the issue here is that since the 70s, there has been this push by the radical left and all these environmentalists, these green people, to basically involve the deaths of millions, if not billions, of people to save the earth. Now, who gets that decision? I mean, who gets to decide that you get to bring a life into this earth and you don't get to bring a life into this earth? Or these people are going to starve because we're running out of food, but these people can have the food that they want. Or, you know, these people are allowed to have these types of things that contribute to possible global warming, like jets, like Leonardo DiCaprio flying around giving speeches on climate change in his Learjet all over the place, causing that type of pollution and carbon footprint, or Al Gore for that matter. Who gets to decide who those people are? Well, I'm guessing as long as you go along and roll with that agenda, you're probably going to be in the select few that get those opportunities and privileges. Of course, what people don't understand, because they don't want to look into it, and we're indoctrinated as children into this whole mentality with recycling and all this climate change stuff, is they don't take the opportunity to look and invest in research to see what was actually done, because a lot of the data out there is skewed for multiple reasons. There are temperature huts, they call them, all over the world, and especially here in the United States is where this main focus of a study is that I read. And these temperature huts were supposed to be the same color, same material, same environment around them, so they couldn't be within 50 feet of concrete or macadam, because the heat coming off of that as a reflection would cause the temperature to increase. Couldn't be near any electronic devices that would cause an increase in temperature. All these different situations, you had this closed testing ground for these huts, and over the course of 30 years they started to see that temperatures were rising in certain areas. It wasn't until a study was done, though, that they actually went around to those huts and saw that some were painted differently, some were painted white, some were painted darker, which absorbs heat. They came across some that were right next to generators of buildings. Macadam was built around them. All these things were starting to affect the temperature by small increases in temperature because of all these scenarios around the country, and it was causing those increases, and people started freaking out. But if you actually look at the data from the global warming trend and temperature trends from satellite temperature taking, then you're starting to see that there really isn't that much of a shift at all. But that's conveniently left out by those on the left and the radicals that are environmentalists. They also fail to answer some of the basic questions out there, like if there were ice ages before, and scientists say that there were multiple ice ages over the span of all this time, that if there were those, how did we come out of those ice ages? How did the Earth in those areas where there were ice ages warm up enough that we were out of an ice age and then cool down again so that it put us back into an ice age? Because these ice ages happened obviously before the Industrial Revolution and the people's footprint or carbon footprint on those to take effect and warm up that environment. So how did we come out of those ice ages? I love looking at science. I love seeing what science can provide. So if you actually look at science, you can see that the Earth isn't just going right around the sun. It's on this different path that goes around the sun. It obviously orbits around that. It twists and on its axis, and it kind of wobbles at the same time. So you have at least 3 different motions as this is going around the sun. And you can see that any type of little shift or position to the sun is going to obviously cause different weather patterns. And we see that with the oceans and the waves that come in on certain days too, and the tides. So the reason that we have all these temperature fluctuations is because nature takes its course. And we see that with science. We're using science to see that kind of stuff. And yet they still want to use science to prove the other way as well. You can't have it both ways. Or you're just making up data and trying to fit it with your agenda. So look, the environment is the environment. We all have to live in it. We all have to deal with it. And it's something that's beautiful that we live in, and we should be taking care of it. Recycling is a good idea. You should be doing it anyway, even though there are statistics that show a lot of that ends up in landfills anyway. Just keep on doing it because some of it can be reused. We should be taking care of the environment because I don't want to see trash around everywhere either and see the Earth polluted with that kind of garbage. We definitely need to figure out some better ways of doing things. But in the meantime, let's stop with all this Earth Day nonsense and global warming nonsense because it hasn't been proven. There's a lot of scientists that believe it's not true, but they're outweighed and outnumbered by a bunch of scientists that have gotten behind political ideologies that have donated significant money to the universities that they study at or the companies that they work for to do this research and tell them exactly what they should be researching. Not is there global warming, but research this and show how this action causes an increase in temperature. So of course they're going to skew their data in that direction. And if the money's behind them and they get to add equipment and faculty and everything to their universities, of course they're going to go in that direction. So it's ridiculous to rely on these opinions when you have dissenting opinions as well. In the meantime, have a great Earth Day, and I hope to see you on the next video. In the meantime, please click over here to subscribe to my channel or over here to watch one of the last videos. Have a great day. I'm the Generation Y Conservative.